guys, it's Yvette, and I thought that today I would sort of give you a little tutorial on the drawstring bags that I make and sell in my Etsy shop. I also obviously make them for other people as well, for swaps and stuff like that. I've been making these for a bit. The pattern that I use is the lined drawstring bag number 101, a simple bag in 8 fun sizes. It's designed by Jenny Baker of In Color Order, and I will put a link to this pattern down below. I think she sells it for $8 or $9. I don't remember what it is, but I guarantee you it's worth it. She has so many different sizes that you can make, and she gives you all of the measurements for each one, and totally ready for you to make the bags. I'll tell you that it's a very simple bag to make, and I've actually made my own sort of adjustments to it as I've been making them over the past couple years or so. And I will kind of tell you about those. You can do them, you don't have to, obviously, that's not how she makes them. I just make mine to be a little more sturdy, that they'll stand up on their own. And unfortunately, I don't even have one made right now at the house because I've sold all of them. Actually, you know what? I do have some Halloween ones. So if I go and I might go and get one at the end and just kind of show it to you. Or, I mean, you know, I'm making it with you, so you will see it. Okay, so I'm not going to go over like what the measurements are because obviously you need to buy the pattern. I will just say that I have all of my pieces cut for one bag right here. You will need this size. This is the inside of the bag, the lining of the bag. You'll need 2 of those, and then you'll need 2 pieces for the outside main decorative part of the bag, and then you'll need 2 of this size, and this is for the very top of the bag where the drawstring is going to go, so it's sort of like a focal point for where the drawstring is. So as you see, I just try to make sure that they're all coordinated together, and you may not be able to see a darn thing. These are the colors that I've picked. And this is from the line, I don't remember who designed it. I will give you that information down below. But the line is called Mum. Okay, so once you have all of your pieces cut, where it's 2 of each, what I do is I will put SF 101 on the back of the lining and on the back of the main piece. I don't put it in this top part. I have before, but what it does is it makes it more difficult to pull your drawstring and open your bag. So you can do it if you want a really tight closure. You can go ahead and put the SF101 on this, which is Shape Flex. It's Pellon SF101. Yeah, so I typically don't unless I have something specific in mind that I want to do it for. So I have all my pieces, and what you're going to do first is you're going to sew all of these together in one big row in the way that they would be put together on the bag. So what I will do is I will have, and this is all in the instructions, you will put a lining piece, a drawstring piece. I'm going to call that a drawstring piece. You're going to have an outside, the other outside, the drawstring piece, and the other part of the liner. Okay, you probably can't see that because I know that there's not that much viewing space right here. But you'll just all in one big row, you'll sew them all together. And I do have a few already made. So you can see, and I'll try to just, gosh, this is terrible. Let me try to move the camera a little bit. Of course, now you're going to have to see, like, messy room. I don't know what the heck you're going to see, to be honest with you. So I have it all sewed together. That's the lining, That's the drawstring piece, the bag, the main bag, the other main bag piece, the drawstring piece, and the lining. And it's all one big piece, and you're never going to see it because I can't do that. I don't have big spaghetti arms and everything. But anyway, you just have one big long piece. It's like a big runway going on. Once you have those all sewed together, I'll go ahead and scooch these since you've seen them. The only thing I'm going to say is, and she also mentions it in the pattern, this is not a directional fabric, so it's fine. I don't have to worry about a darn thing. But if I were using a directional fabric, which I do all the time, by the way, it's really nothing to be scared of or anything. You just want to make sure that when you put them together like this, that one is going is heads up this way and one is heads up that way, and the bottom is right in the middle, because that's where it's going to get sewn together. And you want it to sort of look very uniform on the bottom. And then the sides, I mean, you know, I try to do the best I can on the sides. It depends on what your pattern is, what you're looking for. You could try to make it look very uniform this way, or you could cut the pieces next to each other this way, but then try to remember that that means only one side is really going to look great. The other side, I mean, it's kind of a crapshoot. So I tend to go this way and try to make them look like that. Now these, like I said, they're not really directional, so I'm not worried about it that much. But that's just something to keep in mind. Okay, so once we have this done, I'm going to take one of these guys and I'm going to take a ruler and my friction pen. I have no idea what you're seeing. Okay, you're seeing me, which is probably not a great thing. And then what I do is on one side, man, this is terrible. I just moved the camera and now I need to move it so you can see that better. I don't know. You guys, I suck at this. I really do. I don't know why you guys like this. I don't feel like I do that great of a job. Anywho, what I do is I concentrate first on one long side. You want to take it and you want to just fold them so that you have it right sides together, and then you want the middle to be, you know, at the top over here, and you'll have your two drawstring pieces meeting in the center, and everything will line up. Okay. All right. So what I do is I just make sure that on this side everything lines up, and I will just sort of flip this a little bit and see, and if it needs to be adjusted a little, then I'll adjust it a little. That looks good right there. If you have like a little bubble going in the middle, you know, you just work with it. I mean, it's really not that big a deal. Everything will come together, I promise you. So I just lay that there. I will mark my 1/4 inch, which is my seam allowance on these. Let me pull this up a little. I know it's making it harder for you to see, but I gotta be able to fit my ruler. And I want to just try to, sometimes your seam allowance or your seam might be a little bit off because of maybe the way listen, bags are very forgiving. It's totally not like having a quilt block. So you can just make sure it's pretty much the same here and where it's going to meet here. And then you'll just mark your line. And the first line that I'm going to mark is just this top part. You can also use your hands to sort of adjust it. It's really not, the whole thing is very forgiving, I promise. So I just mark my 1/4 inch on this top piece. And when you get to this middle piece, the drawstring part, you basically just want to, she has specific instructions on where to put your drawstring, but basically it's just find a spot that you like. Once you start making them, you'll start getting an opinion of where you want the lines to be, but you just want to make sure that you're going to have a line going straight across here that your drawstring will go in, and you have to have like an inch to work with. So I'm going to mark, my first line, and then I'm going to go an inch away and I'm going to mark the second line. I will mark between there, and I'll mark between here, and then you just don't sew in this middle piece. And you just move your ruler down. I'm kind of white on that white line, I can't read it. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to take my Wonder Clips, and I'm just going to just put a few, just to kind of hold it together. Right here, I know that I need to keep this piece sort of right there, so I will mark that one, and then I'm going to mark right here. And then whatever happens after this, I honestly am pretty forgiving on myself. It's going to work out. I try to do my best to keep, if there's a little pucker, I'll try to like catch it on like near a seam. But, you know, it's pretty forgiving. I've never worried about it all that much, and they always come out looking great. So she has a great pattern. I don't think you need to worry. So now I flip it over, and I'm going to basically do the same thing, where I'm going to make sure this is laying flat, and there's the seam. All right. Go ahead and draw my lines. And I know that some of you do not like the friction pin. You can use whatever you like. I use the friction pin. I have no problems with it. Never have, but if you do and you don't like it, that's okay. You can use whatever you like. Whatever you're comfortable with. Alright. Now I'll just sort of pin this. And I always do this first, just to make sure that's where I want it to be. At least start where I want it to be. If it doesn't end up there, oh well. It'll be close. As long as I have it marked to begin with, it'll be close. There we go. Oops, I didn't finish doing that one. Okay, and then I just flip to the bottom, and you'll mark your 1/4 inch here as well, but you just want to leave a space to be able to turn your bag, so you don't sew all the way. You'll just sort of sew a little bit of the way, and then you just leave this unsewn. Okay, so now that I have this all marked up, I'm going to go and sit at the machine and sew it. So I will meet you there. Okay guys, I'm at the machine. I'm trying something a little new for you to be able to see what I'm sewing, hopefully a little bit closer. You guys will have to give me your opinion on that. So I'm just going to get started sewing. I have shortened my stitch length to 1.2. I just personally like them. I just like the stitches to be pretty tight on these. Okay, so here we are, and we are ready to go and do the next step. So I'm just going to take you with me over to the cutting mat. I'll be right back. Okay, so now I'm back, and we are going to make the corners of the bags. And again, I'm not going to give any measurements because you need to buy the pattern for that. But I will give you the general idea of how we make the corners. Okay, so basically, like, pull up on the middle on both sides and just kind of make it so that it's like this, right? Like it's got some body or whatnot. Okay, I have no idea how. I can't possibly pull the camera back any further. So what do? Do I get closer? I don't know. You're gonna not be able to see hardly anything. I don't know what to do about that. Still working on it, guys. Okay, so I'm going to do all four corners where I'm going to box out the corner. Okay, so I want to pull it out so that the seam here along the side and the seam along the bottom are sort of like together. I make like this little diamond is what I do. And then I just sort of feel with my fingers. You know, I mean, it just has to be in general. I mean, you can look with your eyeballs and kind of feel with your fingers. It doesn't have to be perfect. Nobody's going to be, you know, get this from you and then start measuring, okay? So it's not that huge of a deal. But she does give you some measurements on how to get your corner. I'm not going to show any of the measurements. I'm just going to go ahead and mark it, because I just know what they are because I've made a million of these. Alright, and like I said, you know, you in general want them to be the same size, but you really don't have to go all crazy with it. That's what I really love about these bags, is that they're so forgiving. Like, for me, for the most part, stuff like this is more forgiving than making like a quilt with blocks that have to then fit together after you've made them over a period of time. I don't know, to me, that's way more challenging than this. So, okay, so then the other one, I just want to do the same thing. Flip it over, just sort of feel it. You can kind of get a look too. You'll see that this seam goes straight down the middle, you know, in general. Okay, so those corners are done. Now I'm going to take it over to the machine and sew right along that line. Okay, so here I am at the machine. I'm going to sew these seams, and here we go. Okay. Yep. Okay, so now I'm going to head over to the cutting board and show you the next step. I'll be right back. Okay, so now we're back, and I'm basically going to cut off these little dog ears. And I'm just going to use my rotary cutter 1/4 inch from the line that I sewed. Okay. So now once I have that made, I'm ready to turn it out. So I want to go to where the inside of the bag is, the lining. You just stick your hand in. I grab the other side and start pulling out, and as I do, I pull this down like I'm pulling a sleeve. And as I pull that down, then this will come out. Just to be as gentle as possible. As you may have noticed, I do a lot of extra stitching where I'm going to be turning, because just in case I make the hole a little too small or something like that, then I can still, it'll hopefully hold because I've gone over so many times. Once I do that, I want to put my hand all the way to the bottom, and I'm going to make sure I use my fingernails or fingers, whatever, to just poke out those corners, and then I'll come back out. I am going to pull this, the bottom, the inside, the lining, whatever we're calling it here, and I'm going to just bring it together to make a 1/4 inch seam. Or just to match the seams together. I'm sure you guys have done this before. If you haven't made a bag before, it's really not that difficult. You just want to sort of complete that seam. So right where you do have some sewing, you just use your fingers to put that line there, and then you just want to, with your fingers, just sort of stick it in next to each other, finger press. And then I'm going to take it over to the iron. I'm just going to press that real quick. I'll be right back. Then I'm going to take you over to the sewing machine, because we're just going to, I don't even like measure what the, because this is not really a seam. You're trying to like close up the bottom of the bag. So I stitch as close as I possibly can to the edge without falling off, obviously. Just so that you don't see it, right? And you want to make sure that you're using a thread, top and bottom, that hopefully will blend in with this and you just won't see it. So I'm going to take you over to the sewing machine and show you exactly how I do that. Okay, so here I am back at the machine, and I'm going to make that stitch, as I said, right on the edge of that seam. And I'm going to go even further past where I've already sewn, just to make sure I get a nice tight seam in there. So I don't know if you can see that, but I'm like right on the edge, and that's right where I want to be. And I just want to make sure that the fabric lines up nice. Okay. Okay, so there we are. I have that little seam right there. I don't know if you can see it. I try to keep it pretty small. And so now we are going to start flipping the bag to make it look like an actual... Okay, so here I'm back, and we're now going to make this look like an actual bag. So I'm going to take the inside, the lining, and I'm going to push it inside the bag as eloquently as I can, which is apparently not very. I think after I get this part done, I'm going to stop for the night. It's been kind of a long day for me. So then what I do is I just use my hands, and I can feel those two corners. I don't know if I'm showing you well enough, but And I just use my fingers to kind of go into those corners so that they're all laying down properly. And looks good in there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the ironing board, and I'm going to, with my fingers, I'm going to make sure that this lining, like from the outside, all I want to see is this orange part. And so from the inside here, I want to see the lining, and then I want to see the tiniest little piece of the orange, so that I know that none of the lining is sticking out on the outside of the bag. Hey guys, it's Yvette. I'm back. It's a couple days later, and I am continuing with my drawstring bag. I just wanted to let you see how I take my like part of the throat of my machine off so that I can put the bag around the, so I don't have to worry about it getting caught on anything. It will go around the little island that's sticking out, or peninsula, I guess you could say. It's not an island, it's more a peninsula. So anyway, I'll be right back. I just wanted to show you guys that part, and I'll be sewing in just a sec. Okay, so I'm back, and I have my bag. I have pressed it as I said I was going to. If you could see there how I've pressed it so that that's the inside, and you can just barely see the front fabric, or the main drawstring fabric as I'm calling it, just barely peeking over the top, because I want that to be seen and not the inside until they open the bag. So I'm going to put a stitch around, I'm going to top stitch about 1/8 of an inch along the top, and here we go. Alrighty. Oh yeah, that looks a lot better. Not to get caught. Alright, here we go. Anytime that I'm going over anything that's bulky like this, I definitely take absolutely one stitch at a time. I don't care if the manufacturer says that this thing can plow through, blue jeans 4 layers. I take my time. First of all, and these are all my opinions, I feel like I have to say that every time I'm making a video now. But, just because somebody says you can doesn't mean you should. That's number one. I think it's nicer to your machine. I think that you have a lot less tendency for your stitches to go wild. And, it just makes it look a lot better. So why go crazy? Okay, now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take you with me to the cutting mat, and we are going to draw the lines that we need to sew along the channel that we're going to put our drawstrings in. Okay guys, so I'm over at the cutting mat, and I am going to draw the lines on the bag for where I want to sew the channel for the drawstring. So I'm going to take my friction pin, and then I'm going to have my ruler, and what I'm going to do is, I know where I put my line, but what you can do is if you go to the seam on the edge and you put your fingernail like right here, obviously there's a hole. There's an inch, a 1 inch hole right here. That is the channel, and I want to have one line along the top and one line along the bottom, and they're going to be 1 inch apart. So I know that that's where the first one is, so I'll just put that right there, and I will use the edge of my bag to make sure that I have the line drawn where I want it. And since it could be a little wavy, you could do just like one portion and then move it and do another portion. And also, this does not have to be perfect either, because nobody's going to take the bag and then start measuring it with a stick. So I wouldn't worry too much. I really don't. So I just want to get it generally straight. Okay, once I have that side, I can just flip it and make sure I have this piece here. Oh, you know what? While I'm here, I might as well just draw that 1-inch line. I wasn't thinking about that, because I'm making a video. I don't think about things like that when I'm making a video. Like, oh, let's not have 100,000 steps, Yvette. Okay. Okay. And as I've said before, I prefer to use the friction pin. If you do not, that's okay. You can use whatever it is you like. Anything that will mark your fabric the way you would like it, and so that you can see it and sew on it. That's all. That's the only requirement. And there'll be another little baby piece left. So you just match up the lines. Okay. Now I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine, and we're going to stitch those 2 lines. So I'll meet you back there. Okay, so we're back and we're ready to sew. So I'm going to stitch these 2 lines, and here we go. Okay, right here where I'm sewing over the seam where the 1 inches meet up on the 2 corners, I always back stitch over it just to give it a little bit more strength, because that's where we're going to be passing the drawstring through, and I just don't want it to pull. So I always put more stitches there. That should be good. Okay, so I'm going to take this over. I'm going to iron out these marks, and we're going to get started on the drawstrings. Okay, so I am over at the cutting board, and I am getting ready to, I always say cutting mat, and I'm getting ready to make the second drawstring. I've already made this one. I'll kind of go in a little bit closer on it whenever I am either at the ironing board or the sewing machine with you. But basically we're going to make the second drawstring right now. So she gives us a measurement of how long our drawstring should be in the directions, so you'll see that there. Mine were just a little bit short, and I thought that was great so that I could show you how I would combine strips to make longer strips, just in case it's something that you are not familiar with. Also, I'll let you know, because you might be able to tell from when you read your directions, is I do make my drawstrings thinner than hers. I had just realized over a space of time that I preferred them when they were smaller. So let's just get started putting these together. What you want to do is you take your first strip and you want to lay it right side up, and then you're going to take your second strip and you're going to put it right side down, so that both right sides are together right here. And I want to see, where could I put that? That would be best, probably right there. Okay. And I always leave the selvage on if it's there, because then I can at least leave that part over to the side. I like to have, whenever they overlap, to have like extra on either side, just so that it's much easier for me to draw my line, because I'm going to draw a line, and I draw a line. If you don't want to draw a line, you do not have to draw a line, but I think you guys know that this is just how I do everything. I'm a perfectionist. I draw a line. So I will just draw my line from corner to corner. And then I'm going to take a Wonder Clip, and I'm just going to put them there, just in those corners, just to hold it down until I get to the machine. And now I'm going to go over and I'm going to stitch a line from corner to corner. Okay, so you'll see that I have combined them, or sewed the two strips together. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to trim off a 1/4 inch to the outside, and I'm going to show you that right now. This is where I have sewn from side to side. I'm going to just place my 1/4 inch line and then trim. And then what I do is just eyeball. I just want to cut the little pieces off that are on the edge, because I don't want anything sticking out the side. And now I'm going to take you over to the ironing board and we'll get to the next step. Okay guys, so now we're over to my ironing board, and I use very high heat, as you can see. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to press the seam. As I've said before, we press this seam first of all to remove the mark that we've made with the friction pin, but also to close up the holes that we make from actual stitching. So when you are sewing anything, you're punching a bunch of holes in there, and when you set the seam before pressing open or side or however you're going to do it, you close up those holes, which makes it a stronger, it'll hold the thread much better. So once I have pressed that seam, my husband has made me this little handy dandy thing, which I asked him to make me, and this is what I use to press open seams, because we need to press this open. And what I do when pressing open is I will use my fingernail to make sure that the seam is opened flat. Okay, and then once I do that, I will press right on the wood to really make it flat. And then I can take the wood away and just make sure that's pressed really well, which it is. Okay, next step with making your strip, or your drawstring, I should say, is we are going to lay the strip down with the wrong side up, and then we are going to fold over the fabric so that the wrong sides are together. And you just want to fold it directly over so that it's like in half. And you just iron it down. And I like to let my iron trail along the back just to keep that seam held down longer, like as long as I can. And the next step is we are going to take our strip and we are going to just not open it all the way, but just open it, and then we are going to fold in wrong sides together again. You're bringing the edge of that fabric to the middle seam, okay? And then we're going to press that down very carefully. Like I said, I make mine smaller than hers, so I just need to just be a little bit more careful that I'm... Okay, once I have that side done, I'm going to flip it over so that I can then start on the other side, and I'm going to bring those wrong sides together with the edge of the fabric going all the way up to the middle seam that you had pressed your first time around. Okay, now we go back to the beginning, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that both sides are pushed in toward the middle, and then I'm going to fold it in half, and now it's making a very thin, this is going to be the size of your drawstring, okay? So then you're going to want to trail along the back, like I said, and go kind of slowly, because I want to make sure I get a really good press on this. Some people will just start, clipping it with the Wonder Clips, but honestly, I mean, if you press it well enough, I just don't think it's necessary. But if that's the way you would like to do it, you can do it that way as well. To me, the drawstring is, the way I do it, it's so thin that when I start putting Wonder Clips on it, it's just, I'm carrying around like this string with Wonder Clips hanging off, and I just feel like it pulls it, and I just, whatever. And you know me, usually I'm first in line to just pin and Wonder Clip everything to death, but not in this case. You just want to do the best you can to make them perfectly even. That's what I do, obviously. And then when I get to the end, I'll hold it for a bit, because obviously the first parts have been pressed really well. So I want to make sure the whole thing is done that way. And then I'll just kind of do a quick little push down on it to make sure. Okay, and now we are ready to finish up the drawstring. So I'm going to bring you over to the sewing machine, and here we go. Okay, so here we are at the machine, and I'm going to stitch this down. Now what I do is I stitch as close to the edge as humanly possible without going off the edge. The other thing is I want to make sure that I start somewhere that's going to be hidden inside the bag. So I don't want to go all the way to the beginning, because you might see, like, let's say that you accidentally get like a big bunch of thread or something like that. Yes, you could start over, but if you have this, like starting right in the middle, nobody's ever going to see that anyway. So just to be on the safe side, I always start just somewhere that I know is going to be inside the bag. Okay, so here we go. And again, I go quite slowly. Just my preference. I just like to make sure that I am getting things as uniform as possible. Okay, so I'm going to try to pull this up a little bit higher. So you're going to take the fabric here, and of course I'm trying so hard to show the stitching that I'm missing everything else. Okay, so you'll take it out here, open it up, not pressing it or anything. You just want to fold. Can you even see this? You're going to want to fold it in on itself, you know, about ½ inch. No measurements required. Once you have it folded in that way, I'm hoping you could see that. Then you're just going to fold it back in on itself as such. And let me move my fingers out of the way, just like that. And then you're going to fold it over again to make it back into the strip. But now all of your cut edges are on the inside. And they're far enough inside that you're not going to have this big giant lumpy thing at the very end of your drawstring. So it's good if you can fold it over, you know, at least ½ inch. If you want to go more than that, you can. I don't think it's really necessary to go that much more, but make sure that you're folding it over at least ½ inch. In my opinion, I have found that it's easier to stitch that way. Okay, so here we go. We'll finish it up now. Okay, so we have our drawstring made, and we are like in the home stretch, guys. Let me take you over to the cutting mat, which is where I'm going to install the drawstrings. You know what? I'm just gonna put the drawstrings in right here and you can watch me do it. Okay, so what you'll need is a large safety pin, and you'll take the safety pin and you're going to take one drawstring, and I don't go right on the end. Okay, I do not go right on the end. I go in about toward the end of where you have that fold over, so that you have many layers, and because you need to have strength. Okay, so don't go way back here. Just my opinion. You don't want to pull your fabric. So if you go through close to the end of where you've folded over, you want to have enough room left here that this is pretty sturdy and that's pretty sturdy, and that'll be your best bet. So then close up the pin, and this is basically just to pull it through. Okay, get a little bit closer. Okay, so then you take your bag, and where you have sewn, there is, let me move my coffee cup. There is now this little pocket, and I know it's hard to see because it's, you know, the fabric is all the same, but you have this little hole right here. And you'll have one way where it's flapped over and the other way where it's flapped in, okay? What you want to do is you want to go right under the part that's flapped up. You don't want to like go backwards, okay? So just go straight in on that one. Make sure you get your piece in, and then you just start pushing. I'm trying to make sure you see. You start pushing in your safety pin. Just go a little bit at a time. Take that, and then you want to just pull it very gently. All right, you want to pass that through and then pull really gently. And now you're going to come to that second seam. You want to keep going past that, okay? So sometimes you might have to maneuver a little bit, but just get it past there and then very gently. Now, if you were to use the Shape Flex on this part up here, remember I did not put it on the drawstring section. If you do, the only thing that's going to happen there is this is going to be a little bit like tougher, so you'll want to go even slower just to make sure that you don't if your pin like pops open, you guys, I've had that happen before. It's a nightmare. It is a complete nightmare. Just try to avoid that if you can. Go slow. Don't try to rush anything. Pull gently. Okay, so now I am back at the beginning, right? So here's my pin. I can feel it right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass it through, and then you just kind of push it back a little bit. And then, boop, there it is coming out. So you want to just pull it real gentle. And it'll come through. Just there you go. Okay. Now you take the safety pin off. Take both of your ends, and you want to make them even. And just pull down a little bit so that you make it even. And then you want to make a knot. So you're going to fold it over on itself. I try to keep them very even and laying flat so that it's not all bunched up. And then once you have it like this, then you just pull. But as you pull, you want to make sure I pull about to there, and then I pull the knot toward the end, right? I don't want it to get it too close this way. I want it to be as close to the end here as possible. And then to make sure it's really tight, then I open it up and I just pull right on the knot just to make sure that's not coming out, okay? All right, so I've got one drawstring in. You take the other one, you do the same thing. Okay, and now I'm going to go to the other side, and then I'm going to find where the flap is, same as before, and you're going to slide your safety pin in, get it in there, and then go really slowly, and then pull gently. Pull gently. Don't try to bunch up a whole bunch because that's not going to help you. Don't go faster than it lets you. Okay, now my pin wants to come out. So sometimes you may have to sort of just maneuver it, and then you'll get it. Get it behind there, and it might take you a second, but you'll get it. Once you're there, then you're ready to go. And this one you have to be a little more gentle because you already have a drawstring in there and you want to slide it past. And fabric on fabric just tends to make it a little bit more, like more friction in there. Okay. And now I'm right there, and then I push it through. Just kind of be gentle, kind of, it'll eventually come through, and there it is. And then go really slowly. Once you have that part, you can grab that and then pull a bit. All right, I'm going to take the pin off. And once again, same thing. I'm going to pull them so that they're even. All right, and then once you have that, you'll fold it over, keeping them together. And there's my knot, right? Arn is saying, I'm tired. Me too. And then you want to start the knot and then pull it toward the end. And then again, separate them and pull toward the end. And bam, your drawstring bag is done. You just pull the ends. And there you go. You can make a little knot, just a little knot, to keep it closed, and there it is. And somebody's going to be getting this beautiful little baby. I think she's really gorgeous. I love her. I hope you do too, because one of these is going to go in each of the giveaway boxes. So there it is. Hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you guys later. I'm going to go have some dinner. Bye.